Colleagues, can you hear my voice before we start? I just want to make sure everyone can hear us. Thank you so much. I see the thumbs up. Good morning, practitioners. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Naledi. I come from the marketing department responsible for stakeholder engagements, webinars, and events, bringing different topics from external and internal, private, public, intergovernmental, so that we bring education so that you are empowered. We're delighted to have you join us today. We want to focus on CPD and licensing. Today's discussion, we're going to unpack the importance of objectives of CPD. We also want to focus on the processes of licensing and registration requirements. And I have two speakers with me coming from the PPRA. Our first speaker is Advocate Deborah Weil. She's the executive in the Licensing and Exemptions Department, and she obtained a B Law and postgraduate LLB degree at the University of Natal. She comes with extensive experience. She's an admitted advocate for 38 years. She spent more than 20 years as a prosecutor, criminal and civil magistrate with the Department of Justice. She has over, coming with experience, 11 years in private advocacy. And also she's an expert in litigation, legislative compliance, and civil liability. The second speaker today, coming from the CPD and education, she recently joined the PPRA. I'm sure some of you know her because you've joined some of her webinars we've done previously. Her name is Ms. Zandile Mahlangu. She's currently serving as an executive manager for education, professionalization, and CPD here at the PPRA. Her area of expertise, they include conducting and coordinating research activities. And also she's responsible for implementing education, training, and development programs. Part of what she does is evaluating qualifications across all three education sub-frameworks within the sector, including foreign qualification. And she holds a BA from University of Pretoria and Bachelor of Admin Honors in Public Administration from the University of South Africa. She's currently pursuing an advanced certificate in M&E, what we know as monitoring and evaluation. So before we begin, colleagues, I want to do housekeeping rules. Your microphones are going to be muted so that the background noise, it's not reflected as the speakers present. And if you have questions, can I ask that you put your questions on the chat box, or you wait until they finish their presentations and we'll take the hands. Some of the questions on the Q&A space, we will be addressing them as we go on in the webinar. The session is going to be recorded for reporting and references purposes, and the slides will be shared after the webinar. I know I'm going to get comments and questions of, are you going to share the slides? So colleagues, the slides will be shared after the webinars because we have all your email addresses, especially if you've registered for the webinar. So we encourage everyone to participate in today's session. Our first speaker is Advocate Deborah Weil. She has flagged her presentation. Can you all see it? Can I see the thumbs up? They can see it, Advocate. We may proceed. Thank you.
Right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this presentation. I'm very pleased to be able to be with you this morning to discuss some of the Property Practitioner Act provisions and how they relate to registration and licensing. I am not able to see hands, so as Naledi indicated, if we can keep questions to the end, I'll be happy to answer any. And Naledi will help me if there's any issue and I need to stop. The first thing we're going to look at is the question of regulation in the property sector. The new Property Practitioners Act, as you know, replaced the old Estate Agents Affairs Act, which was originally promulgated in 1976, and it created the regulator that regulated estate agents. The new act that takes over from the Estate Agents Affairs Act, in fact, regulates all property practitioners as defined in that act. So in terms of this new legislation, all property practitioners now operate in a regulated industry. As such, they are required to comply with the legislation that applies to them, which is the legislation in the Property Practitioners Act, as well as the regulations. It's not optional, it's a law, it's a statute which is passed by Parliament and was enacted into law by the President. The original act was signed into law in 2019 in September, but it only came into effect by way of the promulgation on the 1st of February 2022. And that's when the regulations, etc., were also signed into law and it became operative. In terms of the statute, there are a number of reasons why we need to regulate this industry. There are always those who opt for self-regulation and are against any kind of government involvement in industry. The problem with that, of course, with self-regulation, as you often hear, is that very often it's putting the fox in charge of the hen house. And in doing that, it compromises protections for public, for consumers. It compromises ethics and what is acceptable behavior. And you end up with an unregulated free-for-all, which is not part of a well-regulated society. So the purpose of regulation is, first of all, to ensure compliance with certain standards and norms, compliance with education, which allows the public to be able to trust industry players to know what they are required to know in order to render a service to them. Another reason for ours, which is a paramount mandate given to the Property Practitioners Regulatory Authority, is that of transformation, to transform the industry, the property industry, and the property sector in general into a more demographically representative and equal playing field across the country. And then, of course, another reason, as mentioned before, which is also our mandate, is the protection and education of consumers. So there are a few things that have changed in the new Act, and it's essential for property practitioners to know the most important provisions of the legislation that applies to them. Otherwise, they are very likely to fall foul of legislation and end up with a difficulty in respect of being guilty of some sort of non-compliance. So one of the big changes, as I've said, is a wider definition of those who are regulated by the PPRA, and we have a new definition of property practitioner, which encompasses 12 different industries, and we'll look at those in a moment. We also have powers of inspection and enforcement in relation to compliance. The disciplinary action which is required to be exercised by the regulator in order to enforce the legislation is set out. Provisions relating to fidelity fund certificates, which are essential for any person who operates in the property sector within the definition of a property practitioner to be able to operate lawfully. If you don't have a fidelity fund certificate, you do not operate legally. You may not charge for any remuneration, and you may not receive any kind of remuneration or advantage for your work. There are also provisions in relation to trust accounts, which we will look at briefly, changes in education requirements. Candidate property practitioners are also contained in the new legislation, and there are some new provisions in relation to candidate property practitioners and how that works. There are very specific provisions in the new Act as to under what circumstances a property practitioner is entitled to receive commission or remuneration for their work. As I've mentioned, we have now in the legislation itself a transformation mandate with a number of different provisions which assist in us being able to achieve that mandate. There are new disqualification criteria which disqualify property practitioners from being able to obtain a Fidelity Fund certificate. And that's in section 50. It was the old section 27. There's now a compulsory mandatory disclosure form which has to be used by all property practitioners in relation to property. We also have a provision, section 4, which allows us to grant exemptions from certain provisions of the Act. And there is some very important instruction in the regulations as to what printed information is required to be on your business documentation. And if you don't comply with that, it is a contravention of the Act, and it can lead to disciplinary matters. So those are some of the things that we'll look at briefly. These are the 12 categories of property practitioners under the Property Practitioners Act. Estate agents are still an industry, auctioneers, bond and bridging finance originators, HOAs who perform property practitioner activities, managing agents. Previously, you'll recall that managing agents who dealt with bodies corporate were required under the old regulations to also register with us as estate agents. Now they are part of their own industry, and all managing agents, irrespective of whether they deal with body corporates or anything else, are required to register with us in their industry. Property facilitators and intermediaries, business brokers, including sales of franchises and business undertakings, developers who market and sell their own developed property, timeshare and fractional ownership practitioners, property advertising platforms, and what we call payment processing agents. These are those estate agents like PayProp who will register with us, and they will specialize in managing and distributing and complying with the Act in relation to trust accounts held by property practitioners, and they will provide that service. The regulations makes provision for that industry particularly to register with us and to be regulated. And then attorney employees, which we have always been required to register with us. Attorney employees are those employees who work for attorneys and who perform property practitioner activities within the scope of the legal practice of the attorney. So when the attorney is advertising a deceased estate property or a property in execution of a judgment, and there is marketing, etc., to be done, the staff who perform those functions for the attorney as arise within his legal practice are what we call attorney employees, and they have to register with us as such. Some of the important aspects to remember, and these are specifically for those who are joining the industry who have not previously been estate agents. So if you want to register and you need to know how, there are some important things you need to be aware of. First of all, it's essential to determine which industry your property practitioner is going to operate in, and he has to register and receive a Fidelity Fund certificate in that particular industry. And where he operates in more than one industry, he must register in each and every industry that he operates in and obtain a Fidelity Fund certificate for that industry. Your business property practitioner or your firm has to be the vehicle through which property practitioners operate. So the first thing that has to happen is your director or responsible person must register your firm or your business property practitioner as it's defined in the Act. That registration happens first, and then the responsible person or director or member will then register himself or herself in their personal capacity, and all persons who perform property practitioner activities as employees or contractors for that firm must then register under the firm and obtain a Fidelity Fund certificate as well. Estate agents, the same applies currently as previously applied under the old Act, where there was the 2008 regulation which specified what educational qualifications estate agents had to have. You must have a qualified principal. Your principal can then register your business property practitioner or your firm, and all your employees are registered as candidates. They eventually then become full status agents, and they remain registered as such under that firm. They have to comply with the standards of training of NQF4, NQF5, PDE4, and PDE5, depending on what status they're going to operate as. In all other industries, in other words, non-estate agents, there are no qualifications currently, and your director simply registers, first of all, the business property practitioner or firm, and then he registers himself and all employees under that firm. So whatever education qualification you may or may not have in the other 11 industries, you register as an employee and you operate on that level. And that will apply until such time as we have education qualifications approved for each industry. Managing agents, the definitions, both in the regulations and in the Act, provide that a managing agent is someone who manages property and any right, title, or interest in that property for a third party. Okay. Developers are those who sell and market their own developed property as part of their development business. So if you have a developer who is simply basically a builder, he buys the land, he puts up the property, and he then uses a property practitioner to sell and market his developed property. He does not need to register with us. As soon as he sells or markets his own developed property, he is then required to register with us in the industry of a developer. So we move on to the definition of property practitioner, and the definition in the Act goes on for some 3 pages. So I obviously cannot deal with all of it. I will deal with the most important aspects of the definition. And please bear in mind that this is new legislation. And when you have new legislation, it's not always easy to interpret exactly what the Parliament or the legislator intended in drafting the legislation as they did. And quite often, in most cases where you have new legislation, there is a dispute, both between stakeholders, consumers, businesses, etc., as to the interpretation of certain provisions. And usually that is ironed out in a court of law. So the matter ends up before the High Court, and the High Court then makes a ruling as to the meaning or interpretation of a specific provision where there's a dispute amongst lawyers as to how that should be interpreted. So that's likely to happen. We're likely to have a body of law that is developed out of this new Act where we find disputes or disagreements between lawyers as to how to interpret it. At the moment, of course, we don't have that. This is new legislation. So there's some things that remain unclear and that we will have to wait to see how it's interpreted. In the interim, the regulator, the PPRA, is required to apply it in line with proper legal principles, which we do. And obviously, we will consult with different industry bodies as to their interpretation or their lawyer's interpretation, where we're not sure. And at the end of the day, we will then enforce the law as it has been interpreted for us by our legal people. So let's look at the definition. And generally, the first thing you will find is that there's a basic definition of a property practitioner, which includes certain elements. And it defines those requirements for you to qualify as a property practitioner. When you have complied with those requirements, or those apply to you, and you perform a property practitioner activity as defined in the regulation, then you are a property practitioner. So that's the first part of the definition. The definition then goes on to say, all right, that being the case, there are certain inclusions and certain exclusions. of persons who otherwise would fall within the definition or would not fall within the definition. And we are now prescribing what other persons and property activities, property practitioner activities, are to be included in this definition, despite the initial body of the definition. So if I can give you an explanation as to how that operates in practice. So the first thing that the definition tells us is that a property practitioner, it means a natural or juristic person, right? That means a natural person, obviously, or any legal persona. And a legal persona is a company, a CC, a trust, and any of those persons, whether legal or natural, are included in the definition of a property practitioner. So you're a natural or juristic person, okay? You operate for the acquisition of gain, right? You're not working for free. On your own account or in partnership with somebody, you hold yourself out as, in other words, you represent to the public, either expressly or by implication, that you are somebody who, on the instruction of a third party, performs the following activities. All right? So those are the basic requirements for your definition. A natural or juristic person, someone who works for gain, they hold themselves out as, or they represent to the public, either in so many words or by implication, that they, on the instruction of a third party, so there's the agency relationship there, okay, and they perform certain activities. And these activities are defined in the definition as auctioning, selling, purchasing, managing, publicly exhibiting for sale, negotiating in connection with a property, selling and offering for sale or purchase. Also letting or hiring of a property, whether by electronic means or otherwise, negotiating or canvassing for a lessee or a lessor in respect of a property. Anyone who collects or receives any money payable on account of a lease of a property or business undertaking. Somebody who provides or procures financing for the purchase or sale of a property or the rental of a property, or in any other way acts or provides services as an intermediary or facilitator with the purpose of effecting an agreement between parties in relation to that property. So those are the first property practitioner activities that are defined. And then we go on to the second part of the definition, which says, that being the case, the following persons are excluded from that definition. And the first is a person who does so in the ordinary course, does not do so in the ordinary course of business. So this is somebody who either sells their own property, okay, it's not their business, or somebody who, on a one-off basis, assists somebody to sell their property without it being their normal business. So we have the example of a doctor who operates on a daily basis in his practice. His neighbor is selling their property. He knows of a doctor who's moving into the area and is interested in buying a property. He introduces that buyer to his neighbor. His neighbor and the buyer conclude an agreement and the property is sold, and his neighbor says to him, okay, well, here's 1% of the purchase price or 2% of the purchase price because you saved me a lot of money and you assisted me, and I'd like to give you something. Okay, so that's a once-off. He doesn't need to register with us to be able to take that money. The second exclusion is a person who is a natural person, and that person in the ordinary course of business offers a property for sale which belongs to him or her in their personal capacity. Okay, so let's say, for example, again, your doctor, he is now retired. During the time of his practice, he accumulated 5 or 6 properties as investments. He now rents them out or he sells them where he believes that they are no longer a good investment and he buys somewhere else. And that has become his business in his mature years. And as long as those properties are registered in his own name and are not registered in the name of a company, he does not have to register with us. Okay. An attorney or candidate attorney is also excluded, and there are some provisions further on which relate to under what circumstances an attorney or candidate attorney is excluded from being a property practitioner. And it's very important to note that an attorney or his registered candidate attorney are permitted to perform property practitioner activities without registering with the PPRA if they perform such property practitioner activities in the name of their legal practice, from the premises of their legal practice, and such activities arise within the course of their legal practice. So that is the conditions under which an attorney and his candidate are excluded from having to register with us. And as soon as your attorney goes outside those conditions and operates an estate agency or a property practitioner business outside his legal business, which does not arise in his legal business, then he is required to register with us as an estate agent or as a property practitioner in whichever industry he wishes to operate in. And he can no longer rely on the exclusion to perform any property practitioner activities within that business. Sheriffs are excluded from the definition. And then there is an inclusion in subsection 6, which says that the minister can also designate any person as a property practitioner who she wishes to, if they perform certain property practitioner activities which she specifies. So basically it opens the definition up to the minister, saying that she can add or remove those provisions or those property practitioner activities that she wishes to do from the definition. The third section of the definition is the inclusions. Okay, so this is where your basic definition might not include the following persons, but they are now expressly included in the definition by incorporation in this section. And it includes any persons who markets or sells or auctions, etc., shares or rights, including timeshare and fractional ownership in a property or a property development. It also includes anyone who manages a property on behalf of another. It then goes on to include trusts who perform any of these activities specifically. I'm not sure why it does that, because a trust is basically a juristic person as well, so it would be included by implication anyway, but they do specify trusts. And then they also specify that any director, member, trustee, manager, supervisor, or employee of a property practitioner under the other two sections are also then included. We will look at exemptions in relation to specified directors later, but there is a provision which can assist certain directors in that regard. We've talked about attorney employees, so that's basically your new definition of a property practitioner. Now, I've mentioned exemption provisions, and section 4 is the section which is included in this legislation, which we didn't have before, and it allows the authority to grant for a maximum of 3 years an exemption from any provision of the Act. The provision must be specified, and it's done by way of completing the E1 form, which you'll find in the regulations. It's in Regulation 41.21. That form has to be submitted along with payment of your exemption fee, and you have to then include a motivation as to why you should be allowed to be exempted from that particular provision of the Act. Your application will go before the exemption committee, and if you are successful, you will receive a certificate from the committee confirming that you are exempted for whatever specified period from whichever compliance with whichever section. Please note that it cannot operate retrospectively, and it cannot operate indefinitely either. So anybody who gets exempted from something, they will either have to comply with it after 3 years, or alternatively, they will have to reapply for a further exemption. You should remember that when it comes to the granting of exemptions, the legislator has set out the criteria very clearly as to the circumstances under which we can grant exemptions. So it's not a case of the committee waking up in a bad mood one day and saying, okay, well, we're just going to refuse everybody everything because we're just not feeling so good today. Okay, they have to be able to justify any decision they make. And whatever decision is made has to be in line with the criteria that apply to that particular application. Another very important exemption, which you can apply for, is an exemption from having a trust account. Now, you will be aware that Section 54(1) requires each and every property practitioner to hold and operate a trust account, which is held at a commercial bank, and that trust account has to be held in terms of Section 54(1) or 54(2) of the Property Practitioners Act. There are a number of requirements which principals and business operators have to comply with in relation to the auditing of that trust account, the balancing of the funds in that trust account, and the everyday compliance with the Act in relation to the trust account. So this new provision in the new PPA, and particularly Regulation 2 under the PPA, allows for a property practitioner to apply for an exemption from holding a trust account in specific circumstances only. And this is done by using the affidavit, which is set out in the regulations under Regulation 2. That affidavit is completed and submitted to audit at the PPRA or to Registrations Department with your application to register, and the audit department will decide whether you are exempted or not. In that affidavit, you have to state, first of all, that you don't have a trust account, that you don't take trust money, that you will not in the future take trust money, that any trust account you might have had previously has been properly closed, wound up, and deregistered with us, that you undertake that if at any stage it becomes necessary for you to take trust money as a property practitioner, you will not do so until you have opened a trust account, registered it with us, and given us 60 days notice before you take any trust money of that provision. Okay, so if in those circumstances you qualify, you can then apply for the trust account exemption. Please note that anybody who does rentals, who holds commissions, who holds until they're entitled to it, who holds deposits, can never ever be exempted from holding a trust account. Okay, we're talking basically those people like estate agents who do selling only, and who the sale price or the deposit or whatever it is goes directly to the conveyancing attorney and never goes into the hands of the property practitioner. A very important aspect for those people who are new to the property practitioner regulatory space is the understanding that you cannot simply shut down or close down your business and go away for a few years as if nothing has happened. The Act in Section 54(9) to 14, just like the old Act in Section 32(7), specifies what a business owner has to do when they want to close down their firm. Okay, and there is a long list of things that you have to do, and you have to apply to us to have your firm deregistered. You have to prove to us that your trust account is closed, that any trust money has been paid out. You have to request the deregistration. You have to ensure that you submit to us a winding up audit report in respect of the last period of your trust account operations up until the date of closure. And only once all of that is done can your firm be deregistered, and can you then be released from responsibility for that firm. Okay? So please be aware of the fact that in the property practitioners industry space, if you wish to sell your firm and you are the principal or the registered director or responsible person for that business property practitioner, you cannot simply sell it and say, okay, it's not mine anymore, and I now abdicate responsibility for that. Even if you are removed as a director at CPC, that does not comply with the requirements of Section 54.9-14 for you to escape further responsibility for that firm, okay? You have to ensure that a person who purchases that firm can take over as the principal or as the responsible person with us, that is done, and that all the deregistration or transfer requirements have been complied with. Otherwise, you will remain responsible for that firm. We will come to you at the end of the year and say, where is your audit report? We will come to you and say, we want to see what's been happening and where you've been balancing your books, etc., etc. And where there's been anybody in that firm who has perhaps been guilty of misconduct, we are going to come to you as the responsible person for that firm in terms of the Act. Okay, so please bear that in mind. That's just the details of the Section 54.9-14, which you need to comply with, and it's set out there for you to be able to reference again later if needed. Let's look at FFCs. FFCs are issued now for 3 years. Candidate FFCs are to be issued for 1 year. We are in the process of developing our system to be able to do that. Currently, our system cannot issue FFCs for 1 year. And so candidates are issued a 3-year FFC. Please remember that candidates as estate agents, in other words, because obviously estate agents is the only industry where you have a candidate, your candidates cannot operate for longer than a 12-month period as a candidate. So you will, after your 3-year FFC as a candidate has been has expired, you will not get another FFC as a candidate. So it's essential that during that 12-month period as a candidate, you comply with the requirements to become a full status agent, because the regulations do not allow us to issue FFCs to serial candidate practitioners. You will also be aware by now that the FFC template, which is provided by the regulations, is different to what it was before. It no longer refers to your status, your employer, and it doesn't give your PPRA reference number. We are asking the Minister to please change that. I don't know why it was done, but it's totally inadequate for its purpose. The other important thing to be aware of is that payment for a new FFC, in other words, your renewal payment, does not constitute an application for an FFC renewal. A substantive application is required. Now, the legislator, in his wisdom, has decided to make your lives and ours very difficult. For what purpose, I'm not sure. But under the old legislation, all you needed to do was to pay for your renewal, and immediately your FFC would be issued. Now, the regulation requires that you submit an application form, the same as is specified and is prescribed in that regulation, and that only on receipt of that form, as well as your renewal payment, are we able to issue you with a Fidelity Fund certificate that is a renewal of your expired one. So that has to be, that's a new process, which is very onerous for everybody. And it also means that there's a lot more work to be done for an FFC renewal to be issued during the renewal period. Please be aware of the fact that in the Act itself, the regulator is given 30 working days to issue you with a Fidelity Fund certificate from the time that you submit a fully compliant application. We do not deal with partially compliant applications, just the same as the banks and all the other SARS and all the other ones. If you submit an application that doesn't comply, they will reject it and you will not be able to submit it, or they will not consider it. You will have to reapply once you are able to provide all the documentation that is needed. So by the same token, if you send us half an application and it doesn't have what is needed, we will respond and we will say, sorry, your application is not complete. It has been rejected. We will tell you what it doesn't have, but you don't just then send us the parts that you didn't submit. You are now required to submit a new application. Your new application is then, when it's complete, we will consider it. And we have 30 days from the date on which we receive a fully compliant application to issue you with your Fidelity Fund certificate. I know that there seems to be a lot of unhappiness amongst some of the industry bodies who act for their staff, for their members, and who apply on their behalf, where an application is submitted, and the next day somebody wants to know where their FFC is. Okay, so all that does is it makes it difficult for everybody else's applications to get attended to, because it now clogs up those applications that come in. So please make sure that you allow the 30 working days or close to it before you submit any kind of query relating to what is needed. Your FFC fees escalate by CPI annually, and that is set out in the regulations. And your FFC fees are set out by the legislator. We find ourselves in quite a difficult position. We don't receive, as a regulator, we don't receive any money from the fiscus. We are entirely self-supporting. Under the new regulations, you now get a 3-year FFC for a lot less than it would have cost you to have 3 one-year FFCs under the old Act. I'm not sure where the legislator thought we were going to get the rest of the money from by cutting our revenue, but that's one of the things that has happened, which makes it very difficult for us to properly attend to the mandates that have been given to us, which are now a lot wider than they were previously. Also, you will be aware that firms now, in terms of the regulations, do not pay for an FFC. Only your principal and your individuals pay for FFCs. And we often issue 5 or 6 different FFCs for 5 or 6 different firms in respect of one principal. So all of that we're doing without any kind of money coming in, and the money we received for that previously we also don't get. So that's only 2 of the ways in which the legislator has cut our revenue, which makes it very difficult for us to provide a proper service. You will have seen that as a result, we have published a list of admin fees for different services which are not specified in the Act, but which we have to render, and where the Act doesn't specify what payment is required for it. So we have some administrative fees for various administrative action which we have to take, which you are required to pay when you request that service. Okay, section 50 is the section that disqualifies persons from being issued with a Fidelity Fund certificate, and that refers particularly to people who have been convicted of an offence involving dishonesty, people who are unrehabilitated insolvents, people who don't submit their tax clearances for their business, and juristic persons who don't submit a BE certificate. So those are some of the requirements under section 50. Then very briefly, the registration process. Okay, as I indicated, in non-estate agent practitioners, these do the firm registration first. You use your firm registration form. You submit it to manual registrations at the ppra.org.za. It's done by the director, and he submits the form plus these documents. It's your SIPC or your firm documents, your bank letter confirming your trust account held in terms of section 54(1) of the Act, or a trust exemption certificate if you have one, your auditor's letter confirming that the entity holds a trust account and that the auditor is there to audit that trust account and he is appointed accordingly, a company resolution allowing the firm to be registered, a valid BE certificate. Note it doesn't have to be compliant, simply has to be a BE certificate that is issued by the correct authority, alternatively the affidavit under the BE legislation which says that you are exempt from complying with BE. And that is for our juristic entities only. And then your SARS tax clearance certificate must be submitted for all firms, whether it's a juristic firm or a sole prop. And then proof of payment of the statutory fees and the administration fees. Okay, once that's been done, then the directors will register themselves individually as well as their employees. And that's what's required for you to submit your ID document, your individual property practitioner application form, an E1 form, which is simply a formality really, because Regulation 33 states that property practitioners cannot operate if they haven't done a candidacy and if they haven't done a PDE exam, which is basically our board exam. Now, there are not board exams available for the 11 other industries, and there are also not candidacies available for the other industries yet. So we simply grant you an exemption from Regulation 33. And so you simply ask us in that form to please exempt you from Regulation 33 because we are not able to provide you yet with the qualifications that you need to comply with. And then proof of payment. Employees need the application form, the E1 form that I mentioned, and your letter of employment signed by your director and your employee, stating your reference number of the director as well as the firm. And then, of course, proof of payment. And all of these go to manual registrations at the ppra.org.za. Estate agents, a similar process. You register as an estate agent in the estate agent industry. To register a firm, your principal, who is properly qualified with us, must register that firm, submits the documentation needed to do so. He will submit, obviously, your ID documents, your application form for individuals, the principal qualifications, if it's not on our system, proof of payment of your registration fee. Excuse me. And then candidates will do the letter of employment, proof of payment, etc. Your firm is registered in exactly the same way with the same firm requirements as your non-estate agent firms. All right, just to round up, the auditors, please be aware of an audit manual that has been published by our audit department, which you need to be aware of if you have a trust account. It's essential that you comply with all of that. Remember that you have to submit your annual audit report for your trust account in the format prescribed by the PPRA within 6 months of your financial year end. It has to be submitted in good time, otherwise penalties will accrue. All firms must have business accounts audited within that period, but your business accounts audit, which is basically your financial statements, you don't need to submit to us. You have to have them on file so that if we ask for them, you can provide them. You should be aware that if you don't have a trust account, in other words, if you've been exempted from holding a trust account and your turnover is less than 2.5 million per annum, you do not need an auditor. You can have your financials reviewed annually by an independent accountant. But as soon as you have a trust account, it doesn't matter what your turnover is, you have to have an auditor audit your trust account. Your mandatory disclosure form is set out, and the regulation says that no estate agent can take a mandate involving the sale or lease of a property without obtaining an MDF. So it's got to be obtained right at the beginning of your mandate, okay? Not later on when you actually conclude a sale. An agent who fails to comply can be held personally liable in law for any loss arising from that failure. And of course, we also are required in terms of the Act to take disciplinary action against the agent and the principal. The prescribed MDF, again, in the legislator's wisdom, fails to cater for lease agreements, although Section 67 of the Act requires it to apply to lease agreements. So if you do leases and the mandatory disclosure form doesn't work for you, you are able to apply to us by way of an exemption application, asking us to allow you to be exempted from using the statutory MDF form for lease agreements and providing us with a copy of the one you want to use instead. And we will look at that and see if it complies with the basic premise of the Act and regulations, and we will grant you the authority to use that for your lease agreements instead. Right, we've already done that. And then just some last general discussion points. Your inspections and compliance. Inspectors are appointed. They issue compliance notices for minor misconduct. If you don't pay in terms of that, or if it's a serious misconduct, it goes to the through the disciplinary process in the legal department. And as indicated, Estate Agent Regulation 2008 still applies for education requirements. Other industries yet to be decided. Candidates, practitioners, in terms of the regulations, are actually only allowed to operate as a candidate for 6 months, which obviously doesn't work because your qualification takes longer than that. So we, as a board, as we are entitled to do under the regulations, have extended that to a period of 12 months. And then once you've finished your 12 months and you've passed your applications, please remember that you then have to apply to upgrade. There's no automatic upgrading anymore in terms of the new legislation. We are not allowed to do it. You have to apply to us and say, I now have a job as a full status agent with X person, and please can you register me as such, and please can I have a Fidelity Fund certificate. There's section 56.5 talks about payment of commission, and this prohibits payment of commission to any practitioner, principal, or business who was not in possession of a valid Fidelity Fund certificate at the time that the transaction occurred. And in terms of the Act, if you do get paid that commission, you have to repay it on demand. Otherwise, it's a criminal offence. Section 50, I've talked about, disqualifications. Transformation, just to mention, we now have a research centre, we have a transformation fund, and we have a number of anti-discrimination provisions in the Code of Conduct and in Section 50. And anybody who has been found guilty of discrimination by a court of law is not entitled to operate as a property practitioner. And then please have a look at Section 53 and Regulation 41, which deals with your business material and your marketing material, which is required now to reflect your business property practitioner's details, which practitioner it is who operates it, name details, contact details, the type of entity. You have to state that you hold a valid Fidelity Fund certificate. You don't have to put your FFC number, so that is not correct. You simply guarantee that you have a valid FFC. And remember that your FFC must be displayed prominently in your place of business. Thank you very much, and I hope that that's been of some assistance. Any questions, I'm happy to take, time permitting.
Thank you, Advocate. Thank you so much. I'm going to flag for our second speaker, Ms. Zandile Mahlangu. She's going to explain to us the CPD. Ms. Mahlangu, are you ready? Can I flag for you? Colleagues, can you see my screen? Can I see thumbs up? I'm going to put it on slide mode. Ms. Zandile Mahlangu, can you hear us? Can you see the screen?
I can see the screen. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll put it on slide mode for you.
All right, that's perfect. All righty. Good morning, colleagues. I am so happy to be here this morning so that we can talk about CPD. I've come to realize, colleagues, that CPD is one of those topics that at times we do not talk enough about, and so we need to correct that. So the focus of today's presentation, colleagues, is I really just want to explain, the CPD acronym. I want us also to understand what is the purpose, why do we need to do CPD? And also we need to know who then is eligible to do CPD. Is it everyone? Is it, a select few? And just in terms of the requirements, what are the requirements? What makes one eligible there? And we will also look at issues around the fees as well as the modules that we do offer or that we do have for the 2025 CPD year. We can move, Naledi. Thank you. So, colleagues, just to explain what CPD is continuing professional development, right? So this enables property practitioners to stay current with industry trends, regulations, and best practices, right? Ultimately enhancing their performance and contributing to their professional growth. Colleagues, the mistake that we often make is once we qualify, once we become full status, once we become agents and we now start to work in the property sector, for some odd reason, we then, start to think, well, I've done my qualification, and so therefore there is no need for me to do any other learning, right, or development. And colleagues, we need to move away from that. We really, really need to invest in ourselves and invest in improving and bettering ourselves, right? So the purpose also of CPD, colleagues, is just to make sure that, is to foster continuous learning and maintain high professional standards, right? So it is to ensure compliance with regulations, and it is to help us to adapt to the ever-changing landscape of the real estate market, right? Now, I know that during Advocate Vile's presentation, she did touch on the new regulation. And perhaps I must say that the new regulations will remain new up until other new regulations. So with the new regulations, we understand that there might be, things for the property practitioners who have been in the space, who have been in the sector for the longest time. But it is still important to, to remain current with the new regulations and make sure that you understand, make sure that you know what is new, what has been added, what is no longer there, what is still relevant, more especially if it's going to help you with your performance, if it's going to, help you in terms of remaining compliant in the sector. And also CPD is important, colleagues, just to help you manage risk, right? Now, the property space, colleagues, it is very regulated. And so meaning that there are a lot of laws that one needs to know and stay abreast with, right? And so it is important that you know those so that you can navigate and manage the risk, right? So by staying informed about legal and regulatory changes, property practitioners can then mitigate potential risks, right? And some of these risks, colleagues, are associated with non-compliance. Some of them are associated with outdated practices, right? So please, make it a point to constantly do CPD. So then, who is eligible to do CPD, right? So according to our regulation, and that is Regulation 33.5.1, right? All property practitioners are required to undergo continuous professional development as prescribed by the authority in accordance with sub-regulation 33.5.1, as I've already quoted, other than candidate property practitioners, right? So now, all the sectors, colleagues, that we now regulate as the CPD, as the PPRA, if you are a person who is operating in auctioneering, but you are interested in, in the PPRA CPD, then you are also more than welcome to then approach us so that we can see how we can assist one another. But ultimately, if you are full status, okay, as a real estate agent, or you are a principal, you should and you must be doing CPD. We can move. All right. So in terms of then, how do we then go about in terms of, should you wake up tomorrow and decide you want to do your CPD, right? So what's going to be important there, colleagues, is you will have to have a personal development plan, right? So for the 2025 CPD year, we have been offering CPD in the following manner as the PPRA. We've got CPD via e-learning, okay? So that is the CPD where you log onto your portal and you will complete the 4 modules that you need to complete, and then you will be credited with your 4 points, right? And then we also have CPD that we are offering via the webinars, right? So in terms of the webinars, colleagues, it becomes important that you log on time and you stay the duration of the webinar in order for you to actually qualify to be credited for those modules. Because if you don't stay the whole duration of the webinar, then we cannot credit you, okay? So the nice thing with the webinars, colleagues, is that it will be 4 modules that are being presented, meaning that you are then credited for all 4 your modules. So you will be meeting your CPD requirements for the 2025 CPD year, all right? So it's going to be important, colleagues, that you ensure that your PDP is current and it aligns with your professional objectives, okay? We can move on, Naledi. Right. Now, so at the PPRA, colleagues, we've got a CPD cycle of 3 years, okay? So meaning that you've got 3 years to comply, right? But now I also want to mention this, colleagues. Just because you've got 4 years, you've got 3 years to comply, it does not mean that you should leave your CPD for the 3rd year or for year 3. Only then do you want to do all 12 your modules, okay? How it is supposed to be done, you must actually do 4 modules each year. So if your rolling cycle, for example, starts in 2023, what that would mean for you is in 2023, you do 4 modules. In 2025, you do another 4. And in 2025, you do the last 4. Then you've got a total of 12 modules, okay? So for 2025, we launched CPD on the 30th of April. So meaning that from that date, all the e-learning became available on the portal. And for those who then wish to attend webinars, please be on the lookout. We will be hosting the second webinar, the second CPD webinar, where property practitioners can be credited for those modules. So in terms of the participation details, colleagues, so what one would need to do then is you will log onto your portal, you will select the modules that you wish to complete, you watch the videos. After you have watched the videos, then you complete the quiz, okay? After you have completed the quiz, then colleagues, then you can be credited for that module. It is important, do not just watch the video and then not complete the quiz, because then that would simply means you have not done the module. So it is important that you watch the video and you complete the quiz that follows, okay? And to successfully complete the modules, property practitioners must obtain a minimum of 70%. So the big question then is, how much is CPD? Colleagues, for the 2025 financial year, it is 1,775 for CPD, okay? So basically, after you have paid the 1,775, you can then submit your proof of payment, and we will make sure that your payment is allocated, right? Now, also to make perhaps your life even easier, when you make the payment, colleagues, please quote your 7-digit number as the reference, so that that payment then becomes allocated automatically and we don't have to send it to finance for payment allocation, okay? So if you did not use your 7-digit PIN, you will definitely have to send in the proof of payment so that then we escalate it to finance and we make sure that that payment gets allocated to your profile. Okay, right. So for 2025 colleagues, these are the modules that we have. Should you log on to the portal, you will realize that these are the modules or the topics that we have covered. We've got the Financial Intelligence Center Act. We have the Personal Development and Goal Setting presentation. We've got a presentation on customer service and a renter loyalty. Then we've got a house price in indices presentation. We also have a presentation, colleagues, on compliance with regulatory changes in the Property Practitioners Act 22 of 2019. Then we've got one on the South African real estate market. Basically, this one, colleagues, it is really just to highlight and some of the trends that are out there at the moment in the property space. Very interesting, I must say. And then we also have a presentation on the relevance of statistics in real estate. We have one on asset management and loan analysis. This should be very interesting. And then we've got one on consumer culture. Colleagues, it's very important that you understand your market, you understand, the people that you are selling the houses to, so that it becomes easier for you to just market the houses that you're trying to sell and hopefully make that money. So then once you have completed your 4 modules, colleagues, then once you've completed the 4 modules, colleagues, then you have complied, right? So completion of all required modules is crucial for compliance. Okay, we can move on, Naledi. All right. So just to give you a bit of a walkthrough, this slide actually is not as it does not have the other parts that I was hoping to have and to talk to, but I know that my colleague Colleen will speak to it. So colleagues, if you look in terms of the steps, what are the steps that one would need to undergo in order to do CPD, right? So the practitioner must initiate the CPD process by actually logging onto the My CPD portal, right? And then you will create a PDP. PDP is your personal development plan. Then colleagues, you make the payment, right? And as already mentioned, when you make the payment, please quote your 7-digit as your reference. And then finance department will process the payment. Once the payment has been processed, then the practitioner will be able to access the portal and actually do the CPD modules, right? The practitioner then selects and engages with the 4 different modules that they have selected. For each module that they watch from the different presentation, you will then have to complete the questions that follow. And once you have successfully done so, you will then be credited for the module, okay? I do know that this is the end of my presentation. Perhaps before we go to the questions, Naledi, we can have Colleen to just talk us through the portal and just give a bit of a demonstration so that all the property practitioners can see and have an idea of how to navigate the portal. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you. Let me give her access to Flag. Is she in the meeting? Look for her. Okay. It's still dialing her so she can join.
Sorry, Naledi?
Yes, ma'am. I'm waiting. It's dialing.
Oh, okay. You're trying to dial her in.
Yes.
Okay. In the meantime, I saw there was a hand up. Can I maybe take that question so long?
Okay, I'll have to unmute everyone. Just hold on, because I thought we'd do questions at the end. Just hold on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Joanne, you can ask. Joanne, you're the first hand. Can you hear us? Okay, let's go to Fiona.
Hi, colleagues. Hope you well. Thank you for the presentation. I just have a question. I have an agent who has been waiting for over a year for her 2023 CPD to be removed. She only qualified, she became eligible only for 2024. I've been requesting this since 2024. It's been a year now, and she cannot proceed with 2024. Can this be resolved, or who do I speak to? I've sent numerous emails. They've promised to remove 2023, but nothing's happening.
Okay, our executive will take this one. Ms. Mahlangu.
Thank you so much, Naledi. Hi, Fiona.
Hi.
So the issue here, colleagues, is that I'm going to try and explain this IT issue as best as I can. So, colleagues, what happened is there was a bit of an issue on our system, in that if the system could not pick up the date that the practitioner became eligible for CPD, it was using CPD as the default, 2023 as the default date. So we had a lot of practitioners who then, when they tried to log on to their system to do CPD, they could not do CPD because of that issue, in that the system is now trying to take them back to 2023, right? So when we realized this, obviously then we started with developing the memos so that we can actually get a provider to then make the necessary changes, right? So that is underway. And with that then being underway, the other issue that we then experienced was that we were also moving from the one network provider to another. So that then was causing a bit of a delay. People who understand IT better than me will probably understand how that then makes things a bit difficult. So I just saw emails that were talking about IP addresses and stuff like that, colleagues. So, but then we are in the process now. That part has been sorted in terms of how then they're going to include all these different changes that we want to the system. And I also want to mention that that is not the only change that we then had to make to our system. The other change that we needed to make is our system needed to allow us to import or upload points, right? And not just take the points that were done via e-learning. Now, for example, we do have an accredited CPD provider, right? And there are people who have done CPD through Charter at this point. And Charter has submitted those names, colleagues, rest assured. They have done, and submit the list of all the people who have completed CPD, as well as the necessary points that we need to upload on the system. So we have explained to them that we will be able to upload those points as soon as our system is fully functional. So meaning, as soon as the people who are now not able to do CPD due to eligibility, once those people are able to do CPD, even the issue around uploading the points from Charter will also be resolved. Okay, so that is the current situation that we are having, and we are aware of it. So at this point, we do not think of it as non-compliance in terms of maybe the property practitioners are non-compliant. We do understand that at this point we are experiencing that challenge at the PPRA. Thank you, colleagues.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's check. Colleen, are you in the meeting before I go to the chats and we address all the questions? Colleen? Okay, I have another question, speakers, coming from the chat box. It's from GS. Is it a requirement to pay for CPD, or is there another option to complete CPD without payment? You're gonna have to pay, Ms. Mahlangu?
Thank you so much for that question, Naledi. So there are two options available to our property practitioners. If you're doing CPD with the PPRA, as mentioned, you will pay 1,775, okay? And should you wish to do CPD externally, at this point, the only external provider that is accredited is Charter. We don't have any other provider that is accredited to provide CPD. And when you do your CPD through Charter, there is an admin fee, but as things stand right now, Charter is paying the admin fee, and it is not. Yeah, I think they've got their own understanding with the practitioners, but the PPRA then recoups that admin fee through Charter.
Okay, I have another one from Ruth. When will the CPD for management agents become available?
Thank you so much for that question. The CPD for managing agents, well, in fact, not just managing agents, but there are few other sectors that will finally be able to do CPD with the PPRA. All those CPD will be available in this new financial year.
Thank you. I think Sandra Kelly, Ms. Mahlangu answered that question, because you were saying, is CPD points only available through the PPRA, or can an independent skills provider register to provide CPD? If so, what is the registration process? I think she touched on that when she spoke about Charter. Let's go to Tracy. I was told I was not responsible for the CPD for 2023, and I did 2024. Now we're wanting to proceed with 2025 CPD. Your system is blocking me and wants me first to do that 2023 before I can proceed with this 2025. I've lodged numerous queries. I've called, and your staff either cannot provide or does not provide feedback. How do I get this sorted, ma'am?
Thank you so much for that question, colleagues. So the issue that you have just explained to us now, Naledi, is the issue around eligibility. The practitioner is correct. The way I'm understanding, the practitioner is correct. They're not supposed to do 2023 CPD, and as soon as we have fixed everything that needs to be fixed on our system, colleagues, we will communicate. If there's one thing that we will make a point of doing, is to communicate as soon as our system is working, because we understand how much it is implicating and how much of an inconvenience it has become for all the property practitioners. So as soon as our system is fixed, we will communicate, colleagues, so that you can then complete your CPD that is still outstanding. And as already mentioned, at this point, we do not consider it as non-compliance on your end, colleagues. We understand that, so many of you actually want to do the CPD, and it is really just a system at this point that is making it a bit difficult for you. So we do understand, as soon as the system has been resolved, that issue will be resolved. However, should you wish, you are more than welcome to direct that query to me, so that I can also maybe just note it and just check up on it once our system has been resolved, to make sure that you are now able to access the CPD that you are supposed to access. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you for that. Colleagues, if I skip your question, it's not that I don't see it. It could be that it's a duplicate and our speakers are already covering it as they answer, because I note that we would be asking similar questions more related. And if you feel that upon reading it, you were not answered correctly, raise your hand and come through. Let's engage. Let's go to the hands. I'll go back to the chats in a minute. Let's recognize Nicolene. Okay, it was an old hand maybe because now she opted out. Tanya.
Good morning, colleagues, and thank you for the opportunity and the presentation. My question is, I'm part of Aldous Business Brokers, so mostly all the brokers registered for the business broker FFC. Some of them we actually registered in both industries, real estate and business broker. But some of the brokers do not want to be registered in the real estate industry anymore. How do we go about deregistering them just for the real estate part because they don't want to renew their FFCs without it actually affecting their business broker FFC applications? Do we just submit a letter and where we send it to, or how exactly do we deregister them just from the one industry?
Advocate.
Thanks, Naledi. The deregistration process is set out in the Act, so it's not a matter of simply sending in a letter or anything else. You have to follow the process which is prescribed. So if you have, excuse me, if you have a registration in the estate agent industry and you are no longer operating as an estate agent, you have to deregister as an estate agent in that industry, and you have to register under the correct industry that you are now operating under. So that means that you go through the deregistration process, which, as I said in the slides, you will find in section 54.9 to 14. What you can be aware of is the fact that it may be the same company that was previously registered as an estate agent and now wants to register as a managing agent or whatever, or in the business broker industry particularly. So what you need to do is you need to submit your deregistration request in writing by the principal of your estate agency to say, please deregister this firm. You will have to ensure that your audit of your trust account is up to date, and you will need to then submit an affidavit along with your request for deregistration to say that the company is going to continue to operate in the same name and using the same trust account if it intends to use the same trust account in the brokerage industry space. And you then submit your application forms along with all your documents to register under that industry. Having submitted your audit reports, made sure that they're up to date, having submitted your request to deregister, and having submitted your application to register under the other firm, you can do all of that together, and we will then, on the basis of the confirmation letter, and you will need to get a letter from your bank confirming that this company now operates, and this continues to be the trust account, and it is registered as a Section 54.1 trust account, and that the firm is now operating under that name with that trust account going forward. So we will then deregister that firm from the one industry, and we will register it in the other industry.
Thanks, Deborah. I'm not actually referring to the company. It's just the employees that want to deregister, because the company is registered in two industries, but some of them just want to operate in the one industry. So it's just for the, how can I say, the agents themselves or the brokers themselves. So it's not a company deregistration, just of an employee.
Okay, so if the employee doesn't want to have a Fidelity Fund certificate as an estate agent any longer, that's fine. They simply resign. The principal or the director, whoever it is in the estate agency, will then have to confirm that they are no longer employed in the estate agent industry. And they will have to submit a letter confirming that they are now employed in the brokerage industry only. And on the basis of that, they then apply to register under the brokerage industry under that firm.
Okay, thank you. Do we submit that to registrations, or where do we submit that?
Yeah. You will submit that to registrations at the PPRA, and they will then do the necessary in respect of the deregistration from the one industry, and then manual registrations, they will forward it to that unit so that they can do the new registration under the new industry.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Deborah.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Tanya. I also posted an email address for the registrations department where you can put your query through so they can assist. Let me go back to the chats. I will come back to the hand. Good morning. Thank you for the webinar. I completed my estate agent's examination many years ago through the EAB. A couple of years ago, I wanted to renew my certification, but the agent I spoke to said they could not find my registered number or name. I think, advocate, they're talking about the 7-digit reference number. The question continues. I'm happy to pay in what is now outstanding, but could someone please find my name and registration number? I practiced as an estate agent for 9 years. I would like to renew and register with the PPRA. Many thanks. I think that email address can also assist you of the registrations. We need to go to your profile if you can give them your ID number, because you said 9 years ago. We need to go into your profile and we'll tell you the documents and the payment you would be required to pay so that you can come back to the industry. I don't know, advocate, you want to add that?
Yeah, look, if you were previously registered with us, you should be on our system. And if you don't know what your 7-digit PIN was, we will need your ID number. And if you are on our system, your ID number will pick it up. Please be aware that, remember, in the olden days, we had different ID numbers. The three numbers at the end were different. So some people registered with a 002 number or a 007 number. And then after that, those numbers changed. So check what was your ID number at the time that you were registered with us, and make sure you give us that one, or otherwise give us both so that we can look for both. And if we find you, we will then be able to tell you if you have penalties payable, if there's anything else. I don't know if you just were employed or if you had your own firm, but if you didn't wind up your firm, then there will be a firm to be wound up and penalties payable for that. The other thing you need to be aware of is that the criteria for you to register now and to operate either as a principal or as a full status agent is different to what it was prior to 2008. So if you haven't got the required qualifications, you won't be able to register on the same status as you were previously. You would need to register as a candidate.
Thank you for that. I have another one, advocate, from Melinda. I'm not a practicing agent. I'm registered with PPRA. I'm a bond originator and MOXA approved. Do I pay for my 2026 FFC, and can I, on my signature, add my FFC number and that I'm a MOXA approved agent?
Can you add it to what? On your FFC?
To her signature. I think this is a signature email. You see how they add signatures on their email to say the FFC number. So I think she's asking, can she add that?
Yes, you can put that if you're in your signature if you want to.
And can she renew for 2026? Because I know our FFCs is 3 years. Those that are expiring in 2025, they can renew for the next year, which they will get in January, correct?
Correct. Yes, you have to, if it's expiring this year, you have to apply for your new FFC before the end of October in terms of the regulations.
Okay, thank you, advocate. Cornelius says, I have done years 23 to 2025. Is 2022 still required? I'm not sure, Cornelius. Are you talking about CPD? Please come through. Let's get clarity on your question so that we can answer properly. Let's go to Zandile on the hands. Zandile? Zandile?
Thank you so much, Naledi. Sorry for that.
Thank you.
Not Miss Mahlangu. Zandile, our attendee.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Zandile. Oh, okay. I'm Zandile Ngala. Thank you
Yes.
so much. I needed this more than anything else. The information. I'm so unfortunately I came, I think it's 15 minutes later. I've got quite a few questions. The first one, for the candidates, since it's a cycle of 12 months, how much is the fee for the FFC? Because it's not a 3-year cycle.
Okay, as I indicated, we don't at this stage issue 1-year FFCs. We issue 3-year FFCs, and that is payable at the candidate rate that is set out in the regulation. Okay.
Okay.
It's only from next year that we will start, once our system is developed, to issue a 1-year FFC for a candidate, and then it will be a pro rata cost for the 1-year FFC.
Okay. My other question is that a person, because I've met somebody who said he is doing marketing within the real estate and he's got an FFC, not because he's a property practitioner. Is there anything like that? Somebody will register.
No, I have been through. I've been through the definition, and you'll remember in the definition, the marketing of a property of. Sorry, is there somebody else talking?
It's Zandile's background, Advocate Zandile, mute.
Okay, all right. Okay, so if you look at the definition of a property practitioner, the marketing of property, fixed property, is a property practitioner activity. So if you are marketing fixed property at all, you are a property practitioner and you have to have a Fidelity Fund certificate.
Thank you so much. My other question, I wanted to ask in relation to CPDs. Out of lack of information regarding CPDs, if I've missed, because I heard that it's for a 3-year cycle, I became a full status in 2021 August. I'm assuming that it's 2022 August until 2024, which is a 3-year cycle, and then a new one started in 2025. What does that mean, therefore? You pay for the first cycle and you pay for the second cycle, and you have to also attend the 12 modules which are done over a 3-year cycle and then started in 2025, which will complete in 2027. Is that how it's gonna be? Am I right when I say that?
Thank you for that, Zandile.
Hello.
Naledi, can I respond, Naledi?
Yes.
I was not sure or whether you were calling for me to respond or whether you still
Sorry, yes, I made an
Zandile.
error. I was supposed to say Miss Mahlangu. I said Zandile. Yes, ma'am, you can go through.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Zandile, you know what? Kindly send an email to CPD at the PPRA, okay? So that they can explain to you your eligibility date so that you can understand the CPD that you were supposed to do when it started for you, right? And then so that you can be clarified when it comes to that. That's the first thing. Secondly, with regards to CPD colleagues, unfortunately, whether you were aware or not aware, the moment you decide to professionalize and you become either you are designated with the RPP designation, or you become a master real estate practitioner or a professional real estate practitioner, you are then expected to do CPD. Okay, and if, I mean, for most of us, we will know that CPD is done by, all professionals from all different spaces, any and every professional body, there is CPD. So CPD is a must, okay? So for you, Zandile, at this point, because we still need to check when you became eligible, you will have to do all that outstanding CPD. If you were supposed to do CPD from 2022, you will start at 2022. If you were supposed to do it from 2023, you will start from 2023. Failure to do CPD for a CPD year that you were actually eligible to do, that makes you non-compliant. So unfortunately, it cannot be, colleagues, that one then does CPD only for 2025 because we are in 2025 and therefore I decided not to do, or I was not aware, or, for whatever reason, I did not do 2024. I'm not going to do 2024. And in those cases where our system at this point is not allowing you to do CPD, be it you are blocked or there are issues around maybe the payment allocation, once that payment has been allocated and once that block has been removed, you will be expected to do CPD. I'm not sure, Zandile, if you are clarified or if there's anything else that I have not touched on.
Thank you. I think I'm clarified. I will send an email, and I think my other comment that will come after, I will definitely I think we should all take a dual responsibility ourselves as a professionals and also the board, which I look at you as a regulator and also a professional body on things that should have happened, that should not have happened on our side. Not because you are irresponsible, but I think if there's a lack of information, the gap there would be filled by anything. And then my last question.
Last question, ma'am. We have a lot of hands. We have to give others a chance.
My last one.
Okay.
Can I ask about there was I did not mention it though, but I saw it on the website. The international course that is there for principals that you can attend that will allow you to operate in a global space. Can I get some information about it? Is it also if you want to participate, does it fall or does it form part of the CPTs as well? If I want to do it and I've got an interest. Thanks.
Ma'am, Ms. Mahlangu? The international...
The
yes.
international what?
The international qualification that she's asking about on the website that she saw, I think it's IREM and...
Oh, okay. Let me maybe explain that just a little bit. Colleagues, so our partnership with IREM is for it's for a designation. So meaning that if you at this moment you have a PPRA designation and you wish to maybe explore the IREM designation, then you can approach IREM, and then so our designation then will be used as an entry requirement, right? And you will be credited for certain parts of the program, depending on which designation you have. If you've got the professional real estate, then you will be, I think then the modules that you'll be credited for, I think it's about 3 modules. And then with the master real estate, then the modules that you get credited for then are slightly more. Okay, so it is a designation. It is an internationally recognized designation. So for those who are interested in maybe pursuing that, you are more than welcome to start approaching IREM. I know IREM has started rolling it out, so you can then approach them and get your quotations and everything in place.
Thank you. And also maybe to add, we have another webinar today at 1 o'clock, Services CETA and PPRA to discuss NQF5. Look out on our social media for the link to register to join the webinar. I'm going to go to the chats. Yvonne says, Advocate Vile, if you sell and rent properties, do you have to register for both estate agents and managing agent FFC?
Selling property and renting property are estate
Yes.
agent activities.
Okay.
They are not managing agent activities. I can just also mention, I had my hand up just because I wanted to add something to what was asked previously in relation to international operations. Please bear in mind that every country has its own regulatory body in relation to property sales, rentals, etc. And so we as a regulator regulate your operations within the borders of South Africa. We cannot authorize you to operate in any other country. If you want to operate internationally or operate within any space in a foreign country, you have to ensure that you comply with their requirements for registration, for education, for whatever else is necessary. So just be aware of that so you don't fall foul of some sort of international issue relating to that. Also, please be aware that in terms of South African law, ignorance of the law is not an excuse. It's not a defense in any court in this land. So if you operate in a regulated industry, it is your responsibility to ensure that you know what the legislation says and what the law says and that you apply it.
Thank you, Advocate. I have one from Adrian. How many times a year does the committee meet to decide granting exemptions? We have a member who has been waiting for more than 3 months for an E1 exemption decision.
Okay, the committee meets every week. So if there's a delay of 3 months, it's either because the documentation that went before the committee was not correct, there was something that was needed, or there's been a breakdown in communication somewhere. So please send the exemption details to me, and I will find out where it is and have somebody come back to you. It's only done by the exemptions department. So please note that the exemptions that I'm talking about are not trust exemptions. Trust exemptions are done by the audit department. So if you're looking for a trust account exemption, that has to go to audit at the ppra.org.za. They can also get hold of Thomas or one of the audit staff, Naledi, if you want to put up their details. But for an ordinary exemption, it has to go to Tsepo Mafa or Deneo or Tabu. And if it hasn't gone to any of those, it's gone to the wrong place. So please just advise me by email and I'll follow up on it.
Yes, because we have exemptions from qualification, it's education, exemptions from audit, it's our audit, and ordinary one, it's under advocate. I'll share all the email addresses here on the chat. I see a hand from Ms. Matlangu.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Naledi. Naledi, you touched on the webinar that is taking place this afternoon. I would like to also maybe just encourage our property practitioners colleagues. The webinar, it is being hosted in partnership with Services CETA. So today we welcome all property practitioners. Bring all your questions with regards to qualifications, the moderation process, the ASA, all of that. Please, any and every question that you have around the qualification, we will have Services CETA and they will be able to respond. We often find, colleagues, that certain questions that are being brought before us as the PPRA are not necessarily related to our mandate. And so we struggle, and we often feel that perhaps there's a bit of a misunderstanding between us and the property practitioners. So today is going to be that opportunity for everything to be clarified and for all of us to be on the same page and have the same understanding with regards to education, qualifications, and just all the processes in terms of qualification, registration, and development. So I really just invite everyone to please make time and join in.
Thank you. Let's go to the other hand, Clara.
Thank you, Naledi. Good afternoon, everybody. I just wanted to good morning, sorry. I just wanted to find out with Deborah's presentation, what has happened with us is we had started with we're a managing agency and we started with the application in the early months of last year, shortly after all the different categories came into effect. We eventually received our managing agent fidelity fund certificate for the firm and for both directors earlier this year in April. And then, in March. But then a month later in April, I received an email from the PPRA saying that the entity was created as a managing agent, because obviously previously we would have been under the estate agency FFC. So it's been created, but not valid. But I've got the FFC for the agency and then for myself and my co-director. So I just wanted to find out how that can be rectified. And then further to that is at the time we also had to pay for the entity registration, and later found out that no entity should be there should be no payment for any entity registration. So I wanted to find out more about that. And then also, who can we escalate this through? Because I've been following up since April and I just haven't been receiving any responses from manual registrations at the PPRA. So I wanted to find out who can I escalate this through.
Okay, just give me your name again, please.
Sorry, Deborah, it's Cleara.
Cleara, and your telephone number?
Is 065
Yes.
954
Yes.
7952.
Thanks. And the name of the company?
It's Complex Management.
Complex Management. Is that a PTY?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, do you have a PIN? Did they give you a 7-digit PIN?
We've got our MAF registration number that we
Okay.
received.
Yeah.
Is MAF 154
Right.
888.
888. All right. And who's the director?
It's myself and my fiance Matthew Roberts as well.
Okay, so your surname, Cleara?
Is Hodge, HODGE.
Okay,
We
should
haven't
look it up
received
through you.
individual, we haven't received individual reference numbers though.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I'll follow this up and I'll get someone to call you later today. Will you be available this afternoon?
Yes, I will be attending the webinar at 1, but if that's the only time that's available, then I'm more than happy to take the call as well.
Okay, I'll try and get them to do it later, but I'll definitely follow up and get someone to call you later today.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I appreciate that.
Okay, pleasure.
Thank you, Advocate. Let's go to Nicole. Nicoline? Beg your pardon, Nicoline?
Nicoline.
Yes.
Good morning.
Morning.
I just want to find out, we are working at Midnet Eiendomme in Middelburg, and we all paid late payment to obtain our FFC. Why was that? And I actually paid in August, and yet I was charged an extra late payment.
Okay, that's a finance issue, which I need to get somebody from the finance department to speak to you about, because they deal with payments and how much is due, etc. Just tell me the name of the company.
Midnet Eiendomme.
Sorry, again.
Midnet.
Midnet.
Eiendomme.
MID.
Yes.
MID.
Yes, MIDNET, Middelburg Network.
I'll also share the email address, Advocate, on the chat. Maybe she can email with a 7-digit to Morendeni, is our debt recovery manager. They can go through your statements to also assist on that one. I'm going to put it here on the chat.
Okay, so it was a late FFC, a late FFC renewal payment. Is that what you're saying?
I had to register for the next cycle, but I registered already in August, but I was charged a late payment.
What do you mean next cycle? You mean the next FFC
for the next 3 years to get
or CPD?
No, FFC.
FFC. Okay. So it's your FFC is expiring at the end of this year. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And you paid in August for the renewal, and they charged you a late renewal fee.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Just give me your name.
I'm Teresa. I'm working with Nicoline. She had to pay the same amount.
Okay. So who's the principal?
I am Teresa.
Teresa, your surname?
Pistorius.
Okay, thank you. And your contact number?
082.
Yes.
4725 391.
Okay, sorry, 082 447. Yeah.
Now let me just start again. 082.
Yes.
47.
14. Okay. 47.
25.
Yes.
391.
391. 082 472 5391. Okay.
25 391. Yes.
All right. I'll ask finance to look into that and give you a call. What's your email address?
Teresa
Yeah.
at midnetprop.co.za.
Right. Okay. All right. I'll ask them to look into it and give you and contact you to advise what the issues were, if any.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have 10 minutes. I have 12 hands. Let's try to move through them quickly. Jason, please ask.
Yes, morning, guys. Thank you for the webinar on that. Just two questions quickly. I just want to know, what is your guys' stance or requirements on foreign national residents, okay, who are have now non-residential status and are registered with the PPRA? They would have been registered with the EEAB originally. What are the requirements? Do they still need to renew FFCs and that? Because we've got letter of demands on this, penalties and that, and we haven't even been issued invoices and that. So I don't even know what the penalties are for. What is your guys' stance on that?
Okay. All right. In terms of the regulations, if you are registered with us and you have a Fidelity Fund certificate, you are required, in terms of the regulations, to renew that Fidelity Fund certificate before the end of October of the year that it expires, unless you advise us in writing that you are no longer operating as a property practitioner. So what will happen is, if you do not deregister yourself with us and you had an FFC previously, we will issue you with an invoice for your new Fidelity Fund certificate, and you will be required to pay for it. If you don't renew in time, penalties accrue. And so those persons who then do not renew their Fidelity Fund certificate will have penalties accrue for a period up to what the maximum payment is in terms of that Fidelity Fund certificate. So if these are people who have left the industry or have failed to renew and are still operating, in either of those instances, they will have had penalties accruing to them, and they would have been required in terms of the regulations to renew their Fidelity Fund certificate. As far as the question of residence is concerned, in terms of the new Act, Section 50 prescribes that you have to have either South African citizenship or you have to lawfully reside within the Republic. And if you are, and obviously you need to have the authority to work if you want to register with us. So in those circumstances, we will register you and we will give you a Fidelity Fund certificate. Now, in terms of Home Affairs legislation, there's a whole lot of asylum seekers and various other persons who qualify both to work as well as to reside in South Africa. And so those people are also registered and issued with Fidelity Fund certificates if they can prove that one of those provisions applies to them. So that's what we do in respect of them.
Yeah, no, and again, to the point, it's just confusing because they've only issued, I mean, this gentleman's been out of the country for probably more than 25 years, but is still registered, and they've only given for a period of 2015 to 2017, no any other periods or so in connection with that, which is very confusing.
2015 to 2017, that sounds like a CPD period, because that's the time that CPD started.
That would be correct, but to my knowledge, that the non-residents and that generally are exempt from issuing FFCs and then completing CPDs.
Why? In terms of what?
No, being the non-resident status.
There's nothing which excludes them. They have to, whether they're a permanent resident or not is not relevant. As long as they've registered with us, it means that they are at that time lawfully in the country and they have the right to work.
Okay, and even if they don't renew their FFCs?
That's correct.
They're not,
that's correct. If it turns out afterwards that they've left the country, they're not in the country at all, but we don't know that because they failed to deregister themselves.
Disclose
or to
it.
Tell us. Then obviously if you advise us of that, then that's something we can ensure that finance makes note of. but
Okay.
finance will continue to deal with them as if they are registered and lawfully in the country.
Yeah. Okay. So then why would they have dealt with him in the 2015 to 17 period and not anything after that?
Yeah, that is strange. The
Hmm.
2015 to 17 it was the beginning of the CPD cycle. Those were the first 3 years of CPD,
Okay.
which is why I'm wondering if it has a relation to CPD rather than an FFC. But we'd have to ask them to look into that. So the best
Yeah.
thing, excuse me, the best thing to do really, I think, is to send us an email. You can send it to me, and I'll send it to Morindeni, who's our debtors manager, and ask him to look into it and see if they can resolve the problem.
Okay, and yeah, thank you, Deborah, because and I say this respectfully, we email these the other emails and that we actually don't get any replies or any updates or progress reports on it. So yeah, okay,
Yeah,
no, that's fine, great.
It's probably because when it comes to them, they don't really know what to do, because it's
No,
it's not something that directly relates to them. They send it to somebody who they think should be able to help, and it doesn't happen. But
Yeah,
we need to get to the right person.
And it's exactly to that point, even no people are even getting issued of statements or invoices, so they don't even know what they're paying or what they have to pay or settle or to carry on with it. Okay, great. And then, sorry, just the second question. I know there's other people in the line here. In connection with the FFC renewals, I know that, to my knowledge, that the FFC for the firms, are they only renewed in conjunction with the principal renewing their FFC? Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
That is
And
correct.
then tell me, is there new processes for the principals to renew their FFCs? Because to my knowledge, I know it was just the R1 application form generally that needed to be filled in, and the proof of payment, and then to renew the FFCs for the period. Is that still the case for non-principal agents and principal agents themselves?
Yeah, non-principal agents will have to fill in the form, and they have to tick all the right boxes in respect of the form for the renewal.
Yes.
They should also provide us with a confirmation letter that they are still working for that firm from the principal. And when
you see, this is what they don't disclose.
That's part of your application. So that's what's needed.
Okay.
And similarly, your principal will also have to then disclose, if you remember that your BE certificate, if he's had to submit one, that would have to be new, because the previous one would not have been valid any longer. So you'll have to provide us with a new one of those, and also his tax clearance.
And business application form?
No, the business application form won't change. That will automatically be issued at the moment, because of the fact that you don't pay for it. You don't pay for your firm's FFC. Correct, and your firm's FFC will issue automatically when the principal's FFC has been issued.
And that's for all principals under the firm need to be renewed for the firm's FFC to be renewed.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pam. Okay, while Pam is still unmuting, Ms. Matlangu, you can jump in. Okay, let's allow Pam. Please come through.
Good afternoon. Just a quick one. Advocate, is the candidate property practitioner allowed to transfer the FFC to a new firm without the consent of the current principal or the firm? Thank you.
No, absolutely not. That FFC cannot. That FFC she has to register with us under the new firm, with a letter from that new principal, and you have to, as a principal, you have to tell us, please deregister her. She's no longer employed with me.
In my case, I've sent a request to deregister, but they said the property practitioner has already paid 600 and something to change it to a new firm. That has happened.
Yes, no, but that's fine. That means that we've deregistered her from you, and she's now registered under a new firm. So if she's registered with us,
my question was, can that happen without the consent of the current principal? Meaning that a person in the current firm can mess up and just go and register to a new firm. Is that allowed?
Well, that's your ordinary laws of employment. If somebody's employed with you and they don't want to be employed with you anymore, they can leave.
Does it answer, ma'am? Can I go to the next
Yes,
person?
yes, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yes, it does. No protection for the current principal because
Okay,
they will
thank
do
you.
it without. So that
all right.
needs to be looked at from your side, advocate.
It's a constitutional right. You can't change it. People have a constitutional right to work for whoever they want to work for. You're not allowed to limit that right for anybody.
Okay, I see Miss Mahlangu. Maybe before I go back to the chats and the Q&A space and the hands, Miss Mahlangu, you wanted to take a bite on a question?
Thank you so much, Naledi. There is a question from the chat that I am in luck. I am with someone here from Services CETA. So I'm going to read out the question and then I'm just going to allow her just to respond to this one question before I jump off. Is that okay with you, ma'am?
Yes, you may go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to read out the question and then she'll respond to it, okay? So the question is, it is from Moitepi Lehodi. And Moitepi is asking, in terms of transformation, why does CETA take so long to issue NQF5 certificates for people who studied through your empowerment institutions like Milzet Holdings? There is a group which completed NQF5 in 2024. However, to date, they have not received their qualification. So I am with Ms. Emma Mbele from Services CETA, and she will respond to the question.
Good day, industry captains and everybody who is attending the webinar concerning the question that is tabled concerning the qualification of the NQF level 5. I will speak from a generic point of view and then go and understand the bricks and mortar of that particular transformation partner of the PPRA, which is Milzet. The PPRA, firstly, is an extension of the Services CETA outside itself. We are not in competition with each other. We are working well with each other. We have monthly meetings where we speak about industry issues, where they find expression from a skills development point of view. Concerning the issue of Milzet, there was an issue with external moderation, where external moderations were not remediated. Now, the Services CETA cannot, therefore, enter between the PPRA and Milzet in terms of the relationship. Milzet need to remediate those 2023-2024 NQF level 5 so that we can actually issue certificates. So mandatory requirement was not met from the Services CETA point of view. However, I will go and look at it, and in the next session, my Linda Zandile will be giving you full details, and we are looking forward to having you in a webinar that will start at 1 o'clock so that we can zoom into the bricks and mortar of what makes our qualification. We firmly come from a school of thought as the Services CETA where forms follow function. So let's understand your issues so that we can be able to deal with them from the strategic point of view in line with the Skills Development Act and the NTP 2030. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for that answer. Let me go back to the hands, Franco.
Yes, good day. Sorry, I'm speaking Stefani. My brother and I are business partners. I'm the principal. We registered a new candidate, and the system took the candidate's name and ID number and assigned it to my principal status. If you go in with my 7-digit code, then her name and ID number comes up, and below is all my certificates. And I've been struggling to get this rectified since June. And I just want to find out, if I register, renew my agent's certificates, how will that affect it? And how will this be rectified?
Okay, we need to fix that incorrect registration on the system. So can you give me your 7-digit PIN?
It's 11137324.
And your surname, Stefani?
Is Greiling?
Is it EY?
Yes.
Greiling. Okay, thank you. And the name of this other lady?
It's Marlies Serfontein.
Is it Marlise?
That's right. Z-E.
Z-E.
It's Marlies Sophia Martha Serfontein.
Okay, let me make a note. Do you have her ID number by any chance?
Yes, I do. It's 68.
Yes.
It's almost the same as mine. Just a second, sorry. Okay, it's 680722
Yes.
011
Yes.
0086.
Thanks. Okay, now just give me your telephone number, please, and your email.
It's 083 289
Yeah.
511. And my
511.
email address?
Sorry, 511?
5112. Yes, and my email address is
Yeah.
Stefanie. It's with an F and an IE.
An
Dot
F and an
Greyling.
IE.
Yeah.
Dot Greyling, yeah.
At Engel Volkers. It's Engel VOELKERS.com.
.com. Engelvolkers.com. All right, so I'll have someone look into it and contact you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Anna? Anna, I see your hand. Please come through. Okay, Anna is not winning. Let's go to Philip. Philip?
Thank you very much. I'm an accredited estate agent and I'm a business broker. I wish to continue as both. Now, I've recently renewed my estate agent FFC, which expires in December. I now need to submit another registration, a new registration as a business broker. I understand that. But my question is this: can my new registration as a business broker be delayed until December? Because I have an existing FFC which runs until then as a business broker. Can I do so without penalty?
If you're operating currently as a business broker, you have to have a business broker FFC now. Otherwise, you won't be able to operate.
Well, there is no such thing at the moment because business brokers have to convert. Yes, correct. So at the moment,
you don't have to convert, you have to register.
So
you can register now.
I'm already registered as an estate agent, and
yes, but you're not
basically the
registered
estate
as a
agent
business
covered
broker.
both business broking and.
Yeah, well, it hasn't done for 3 years.
So what are you suggesting that I need to register as a business broker immediately?
Yes, absolutely.
And will that then commence from January?
No, it'll commence from now. Your first year of your FFC will be from now until the end of December.
Okay.
Because you need one now. Doesn't help that you get authorized to work from the 1st of January. You need to be authorized to work from now.
Okay. I understand. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for that, Fiona.
Anna Marie,
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry, my mic wasn't on. I'm just trying to find out, the professor talked about 6 months.
No, sorry about that. I thought it's Fiona speaking. She's with Anna-Marie. Sorry, Fiona, please come through. Anna-Marie, please raise your hand. We'll recognize you, Fiona. Okay, she lowered her hands.
Hi, Naledi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, hi, Deborah, it's Fiona. How are you?
Good, and you?
Good, thank you. Deborah, I was actually on a call when the gentleman spoke to you about renewing principal FFCs, etc. I just want to confirm, when a principal renews, he submits a natural person application, an ID, proof of payment, BE certificate or affidavit, and a firm tax clearance certificate. He does not have to submit a business or firm application form. Am I correct?
No,
because it's
correct.
automatically issued once he's issued as a principal.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's go now to Percival.
Hi, good morning, Naledi.
Morning.
Yes, just a quick one. Look, it seems to me that there is a problem that really needs an attention from the PPRA. That is all that one covering the CPD. Based on what we have heard from this webinar, there is a lot of concern regarding the CPD. So therefore, can we request that, because really that can render one non-compliant if one is not careful. And it's also becoming a challenge for most of us who are not based in Johannesburg. I am currently operating from Kimberley. So every time if there is a problem that needs to be sorted out, believe me, the call center is not going to do anything to me. I have to go all the way from Kimberley to Johannesburg. So as a result, I'm requesting, please consider this. Will you perhaps again, because we need some more information on the CPD, because my last visit that I did, it was never resolved. Can we therefore request again if there is a possibility of another webinar on the CPD, whereby the whole thing will be covered? It doesn't have to be done with others, because we'll end up not doing justice to this particular one. So please, can we in future have another CPD webinar dedicated only to the CPD? At least it will cover us. And then the second one also, I think is also, I thought it was just my personal view, but it's also becoming a general view. The issue of business broking. Nothing was done, or it was not touched much previously, whereby one should be able to follow through in terms of compliance with the business broking. So please consider that also as another webinar if possible. And lastly, exemption to operate trust account. I've applied as early as 2023 to be exempted from operating the trust account. So up until now, it was never responded. And it will mean that also I'll have to make an urgent trip again to Johannesburg so that can be resolved as well. Please, can Advocate Deborah just shed some light with me on this one? The exemption for this for the trust account, to operate the trust account. Thank you.
Sir, for the audit exemptions, I'm going to give you the email address for audit compliance. It's under our inspections and audit. You find that sometimes you need to submit your auditor's reports and wind up and submit a bank letter before you can apply for exemption if you had an audit.
That was done as my
It was done. Okay, I'm going to pin my email address. Send me that audit query. Let me ask our audit manager to look into your profile and also your 7-digit. Maybe let me ask Ms. Zandile Mahlangu to start with the CPD webinar you mentioned before I go to Advocate Vile, but I know she spoke on business brokers. Maybe we can touch on it again. Ms. Mahlangu, you can go first. Okay, Advocate, are you able to touch on the one that he spoke about, the second question on business brokers?
I'm not sure what the question is about business brokers. Please just...
What I'm saying basically is here we need some more information, because it seems that it is like what your previous caller who was inquiring about the operation of the business broker. The impression that he had was to say he had the license of the FFC to operate as an estate agent, assuming that it was also covering the business broker, whereas that is not the case. It's a different industry on its own. So we need a dedicated time also to go through that process, because I'm seeing most of the focus is only on estate agent most of the time, and it's not the only industry that operates under this FFC. Thank you.
Okay, so if you look at my presentation, you will see the slide which deals with all the industries that we regulate. One of those industries is business brokers, the same as a payment processing agent industry, the same as an auctioneering industry, the same as a bond broking industry. Each of those is a separate industry. And as I indicated, if you want to operate in any one of those industries, you have to register in that industry in exactly the same way as you register for all of the others. So that applies to all 12 of those industries. It has never, ever been the case since 2022 February that a person can operate in one industry when he has an FFC under another industry. And that I've made clear. So anybody who wants to operate in more than one industry is required to have a Fidelity Fund certificate in the industry in which he operates, and if he operates in multiple industries, for every industry in which he operates. Thanks.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
we're going to share the slides. I think you will see what she presented. It's there on the slides. Let me take the last hand, Anna. Anna. Okay, Anna, let me allow your mic because I did mute you. Apologies for that,
Can you hear me
Anna.
now?
Yes, I can
Yeah.
hear you now.
Okay, to the advocate, she was talking about 6 months that was changed to 12 months on candidate agents.
Yes.
Do they first do that 6 to 12 months and then pay for take out the FC?
No, they cannot operate at all or register until they pay for the FFC and they have the FFC issued to them. So once they have it issued, they can start operating as a candidate employed by a firm. They then have, in terms of the regulations, 6 months to complete their education. Because of the fact that that's not adequate, we have extended that period to a period of 12 months. So she can continue to operate for 12 months with her FFC, and she can complete her education to become a full status agent during that period. And she has 3 months in terms of the board resolution into the following year to do her PDE4.
Right, okay. And then just one more question. I've got an agent that a rookie candidate that started in 2020 or 2021. He stopped after a few months. He took out his FFC then, and now he wants to come back. But what we did not deregister him.
Okay, so
he
he
wants
should
to
have,
join
yeah,
the
he should
same
have
company.
deregistered himself. How long's he been out of the industry?
About a year and a half.
So does he still have a valid FFC? Was his FFC issued for 3 years?
No, he wants to take out a new FFC, joined us again, a new FFC, but he must, he can't afford the arrears, the money in between now.
Yeah. Okay, well, he can apply for a waiver of the penalties that are applicable. He would it depends whether he would have to show that he was not actually operating as an estate agent or property practitioner during that period. And I will ask the finance department to send him that application. If you just give me your email address, I can have it sent to you.
Okay, I'm going to give you my short one because my personal one, because the company one is very long.
Okay.
AMFER, A for Anna, Mary, Freddie, E for Eddie, R for Rose.
Yes.
At mweb.co.za.
Okay, so it's amfer@mweb.co.za.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what's the name of the person who wants to come back as an agent?
It's Brett Belay.
Okay. All right, I'll get them to send you the documentation and he can decide whether he wants to apply or otherwise sign an AOD to pay it off.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. We're going to release the colleagues so they can take a comfort break because they have another webinar coming at 1. They need to join it with the services CETA. I want to thank everyone who participated today, and we thank all our speakers on this important CPD webinar and licensing. We're still going to do more of these, and the recording is going to be put on our PPRA TV channel on our YouTube. The slides, I'm going to email everyone the slides today because I have your email addresses as you registered. And continue visiting our website for information and social media. And those who requested more webinars on CPD, surely we will organize that so that you can have that. And colleagues, enjoy the rest of your day today. We are now closing our session. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Naledi.
Thank you.